Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Today I'm coming at you with a fragrance review of a fragrance that I picked up for $7. Well, technically my wife picked it up for $7, that as of this video is being sold on eBay for close to 100 bucks. To be fair, there's only one bottle being sold right now on eBay, so it's not like this is super common, but the one person that is selling it is asking for nearly $100. It's a discontinued fragrance. It came out in 2016, and I know that you may be thinking when you hear, oh, a $100 fragrance for $7 at Marshall's, it's probably a niche fragrance that they just marked way off. And that's not the case here. This fragrance is actually from Zara, and it's called Sandalwood. And as you can see right here, it sold for $7. In this video, I'm gonna go over this fragrance, let you know what I think about it, and this one does actually remind me of a much more expensive niche fragrance, though it's a really random niche fragrance. So let's jump into this. So what happened with this fragrance was my wife was traveling through a town that's about 45 minutes away from where I live, and she shot me a whole bunch of pictures, just a bunch of text messages with pictures of what they had for sale at that Marshall's in the fragrance section. There was a whole bunch of stuff there. I'm showing you the pictures right here so you can take a better look at it, see everything that was there. So for example, you'll see some Jimmy Choo, some Penguin, some Azzaro, some Burberry, a lot of your more typical stuff that you'll see at Marshall's and TJ Maxx all across America. But that Zara jumped out at me, stuck in between a CK1 and Burberry Weekend, poking out right behind them. So I asked her to pick this one up for me. I didn't know at the time that it was this rare. This one came out in 2016, and I've got to tell you guys, I actually like this Zara bottle design more than a lot of the other bottle designs that they're using currently. It's really heavy in the hand and it feels good and looks good. Around this time of year, November, December, those discounter stores get a huge influx of fragrances, just a ton of them. And sometimes you can find little gems in there like this one. So let me show you really quickly the presentation, then I'll start breaking this fragrance down and let you know what it reminds me of. First off, we'll take a look at the box, and I gotta tell you guys, this box has been through war. It does not look great, and this is how it was when she picked it up. So here's the front of the box. You can see there's Zara Sandalwood. Got your size and concentration right here on the middle of the box. There's nothing on the top, and then has this little orange stripe that goes along each side of the box. On the bottom, you've got your price sticker. You can see it was originally $8.99, but that was just too rich for some people's blood, so they marked it down to $7. A whole $2 off. And then on the bottom of the box is where you're gonna find your badge code and your ingredient information. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at this bottle. Like I said, I think this one actually looks really nice as far as Zara bottles go. Here's the front of the bottle where it says Zara Sandalwood. The cap looks like metal, but it's actually plastic. It does say Zara on top of the cap, and on the bottom is your sticker with your badge code, which does not look like it's coming through all that clearly. The cap does click into place, and the atomizer on this is okay. I'll go ahead and waste a couple sprays for you. There we go. It's a smooth action on the atomizer, if you want to call it that, but it sprays out sort of a little puff of fragrance. As I said earlier, this one came out in 2016. It is now discontinued. You cannot buy this on Zara's website. They also had another fragrance, Zara Fresh Sandalwood, but that was a different fragrance than this one. Zara has made a habit in the past of re-releasing their fragrances with new names. I don't think that's happened with this fragrance, but I know that Zara has a tendency to do that sometimes. Now let's go ahead and break down this fragrance. I'll let you know how it smells to me, if it's worth the pickup for $7 or $8.99 if you manage to find this in your store. And I'll also let you know what this reminds me of. It actually took me a while to remember what it was this smelled like, and that drove me insane. I sprayed this on, and the first time I wore it, I was like, oh, that smells like something that I've smelled a few times before, and I was pretty sure that I owned it, but I couldn't place it for like 3 or 4 days. And then eventually it just hit me like a eureka moment, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember what it is now. Anyway, let's talk about the opening of Zara Sandalwood. It opens up with a citrus combo of bergamot and lime, with more bergamot than lime. It's not one of those really juicy, super bright citrus openings, but it is fresh and a bit sweet. I'd also say it's a little bit brisk, a little bit refreshing, the citrus in the open. And you also pick up cardamom right away. The cardamom in this fragrance gives it a warm and spicy feeling, and the sweetness that's in here works really well with the cardamom note. And one thing about the cardamom note in this fragrance is that it smells better and better the longer it's on your skin. The more that you have this on, the better that smells. One thing with this fragrance though, is that if you smell it right up close, like you spray it on your hand, your arm, whatever, and you smell right where you sprayed the fragrance, it does come across smelling a little bit cheap that way. This is one of those fragrances that smells a little bit better in the air around you as opposed to putting your nose right up against your skin. This one segs into the mid pretty quickly. About 10 minutes in, you're already fully in the mid and heading toward the dry down. And in that mid, you start to pick up more vetiver. It's kind of a dry vetiver, and that mixes in with the cardamom from the opening. The bergamot and the lime, the citrus combo from the top, that fades away pretty quick. I mean, maybe some of that residual citrus sweetness lingers, but the actual scent of the bergamot and of the lime goes away pretty quick. It also starts to pick up kind of a peppery nature in the mid, so it has a peppery feel to it. It doesn't smell exactly like black pepper, but it just has that peppery, spicy nuance in the mid. And there's also what smells like geranium in the mid, though neither one of those are official notes in the fragrance. And the way all these notes mix together in the mid actually reminds me of the smell of papyrus, or the note of papyrus. And that's actually what led me to remember what I thought this smelled like. And as this one heads through the mid into the dry down, it actually smells really similar to the fragrance that I'm about to mention. So much so that I had my wife and a couple of her friends blind smell the two of these on tester strips after they had dried down, and they said they smelled almost the same. And that is Théo Cabanel Jaspe, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but here it is right here. Zara Sandalwood through the mid into the dry down smells very similar to this fragrance, which is a completely random niche fragrance to smell similar to. But when I looked into it more closely, they do share a lot of common notes. Like I said, it smells like this one has geranium, though that's not officially listed. It smells like it has papyrus, though that's not officially listed. And the other notes that are in Zara Sandalwood, for the most part, are in the Théo Cabanel as well. Now, I don't own the Théo Cabanel, I've just sampled it, and I do still have the spray sample. But those two fragrances, really close. The Théo Cabanel smells of higher quality and has better performance, but this is also $7, at least that's what I paid for it. And while this fragrance is called Sandalwood, it doesn't have an official sandalwood note. The Théo Cabanel does. I will say though that once the Zara hits the dry down, it comes across like it has a little bit of a sandalwood feeling to it, more so in just that it has that creamy, slightly woody feeling that you pick up from sandalwood oftentimes. Mainly though, this one's gonna be a fresh, spicy, aromatic fragrance in the dry down with the cardamom, that geranium, papyrus kind of vibe that I get from the mid that's also in the dry down, along with musk and the remnants of that vetiver that you start picking up early on. So overall, how do I feel about this one, considering the price tag? At $7 or $9, it's a great buy. At $100, it's a terrible buy. So this is not at all a fragrance that you should overspend on. Let me make that clear. Do not overspend on this fragrance. But if you get lucky and you go into your Marshalls, TJ Maxx, Ross, whatever, and you spot this for this price, I think you should buy it. And if your box is annihilated like this one was, you could honestly just open it up and give it a spray right there in the store and see how you like it. On Fragrantica, this one does not have great ratings. The dislike bar is pretty big, all things considered, but honestly, I don't see why. Unless you paid $35 for this or above, I don't think it's really a bad buy. I can't imagine too many people smelling this and being turned off by it. It doesn't smell weird, it doesn't smell funky. It's just a nice, pleasant, fresh, aromatic, warm, and sweet, spicy fragrance. It's not mind-blowing, but for $7, it'll get you fairly close to that Théo Cabanel that I talked about, and it also has a little bit of a similarity to Gucci Pour Homme 2. That's actually the first fragrance that I thought of when I smelled this one. I was like, oh, is that Gucci Pour Homme 2 that it's reminding me of? I knew it wasn't the exact same. I mean, there's no tea here, there's no tobacco here, but it had a similar kind of vibe, that warm, spicy coziness. I compared them side by side, and they're definitely not the same, though they do get a little bit closer as they both dry down. But if you said this was a long-lost second cousin of Gucci Pour Homme 2 or something like that, I could see it. The quality here, not the same as the Gucci and not the same as the Teo Cabanel, but again, we're talking $7. Now, as far as the performance on this one goes, it's not great, which happens a lot with Zara fragrances. For me, the longevity here is in the 4-hour range. So if this is one that you want to last a lot longer than that, you're gonna have to either spray on clothes or spray very heavily and hope for the best. Projection is pretty good for the first 45 minutes or so, then it starts to sit closer to the skin. And overall, the way the fragrance comes across is more of a spring and fall time fragrance. You know, your milder weather where it's not too hot, not too cold. And as far as daytime or nighttime wear, I think you could pull it off equally in either one. While it is a cheap Zara fragrance, so it's not necessarily what I would want to reach for in formal situations, it is the type of scent that you could potentially dress up and wear formally if you wanted to, but overall for me, it's gonna be more of a casual type scent. I did not know what to expect with this one. I just saw that they had a Zara at Marshall's, thought it was kind of out of the ordinary because at least in my local TJ Maxx, Ross, and Marshalls, I don't see those very often. More often than not, it's the other stuff that you see in those pictures I showed you earlier, your Azzaros, your Penguins, stuff like that. And I'm really, really glad that she sent me those so I could pick this one up because it's interesting to me on a couple of different levels. I've talked to you guys a lot about discontinued fragrances and how I enjoy them just because they're so much harder to find. And on top of that, it was under $10. It was a really cool find and kind of a reminder that even if your local discount stores like your TJ Maxx and all the other ones that I've been talking about ad nauseum in this video typically have nothing there that's cool at all, you will on occasion find something like this, a really cool fragrance that maybe is not the most mind-blowing thing on earth, but for under $10 is a really cool thing to add to your collection if nothing else, and it actually smells pretty nice. Again, for the price. If you pay too much for this, you'll be disappointed. Well guys, that's gonna do it for me and my thoughts on Zara Sandalwood. Remember, this time of year, November, December, that's when you can find a lot of cool stuff at your local stores. Make sure to check them out. And if it wouldn't be too weird if you have friends or family that are traveling, you know, going to a different state, different city that you can't get to yourself, maybe tell them, hey, if you stop into one of those stores, can you check out the fragrance section really quickly and send me a couple pictures of what they have there? You never know what they might have. You might find a hidden gem. Ask them to pick it up for you and you'll pay them when they get back. Just make sure they don't hold it for ransom. All right guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Thanks for all your support and I will see you guys again tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.